I'm happy to call the meeting to order. It's 7:01, and sorry, I'd like to please, suggest that please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
under God, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I hit mute accidentally. Okay, so I'd like to move on to our first order of business, which is to authorize the authorization to certify Central Middle School Phase 2. And I'll put the motion on the table. I am making a motion to authorize the superintendent of Greenwich Public Schools and the chair of Greenwich Board of Education to certify the Greenwich Central Middle School, school building and school building committee's approval of final plans, project manual, and the professional cost estimate for the state project 057-01114N Central Middle School phases 2 of 3. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, I don't know why it keeps putting me into mute, so I apologize. Okay, so I'd like to hand this discussion over to Laura Costin, who is our liaison to Central Middle School Building Committee.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us in the middle of the summer. So this is phase 2 of 3. We have already approved our preliminary plans about last month. This allows the project to continue moving forward with the state. And if there are any other questions, we do have our professionals on the line, so they are here to answer, for any information that you may need. We also have our building committee chair joining us as well.
Yeah, good evening. This is I'm Joe Rossetti, new chairperson for the Central Middle School Building Committee as of 12 July. And yeah, thank you, Chairperson Hirsch, Board of Education members, and Superintendent Jones. Laura's just briefly stated everything I was going to say, so I think it's great. We're looking forward. Looking forward to your approval of this. We as the committee have done our part, reviewed and approved the plans, documents, and special estimate submitted. And we seek the Board of Education's approval to continue on and proceed to the state and get this approved by the state for bidding of our second phase. The second phase is our major activity. It's the major construction activity. Recently, you all approved phase 1, which is an early equipment package for bidding. But this is the big part of the construction project right here, the big building, so to speak. So we're looking for approval on that from your point of view, and we're trying to get ready to go here and get bidding out on the street, and then get under construction.
Well, welcome, Joe. We're thrilled to have you chairing this committee. Look forward to hearing from you at future meetings. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any hands raised. So with that in mind, I'd be happy to take a vote. So I'm a yes. Laura?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Sophie?
Yes.
Cody?
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes 6-0. And I wanted to thank all of the members of the Central Middle School Building Committee and all the companies we're working with for being here tonight. And thanks for all your hard work. On to the next phase.
Great. Thank you, all the professionals. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so that brings us to our second. Oops, sorry. It brings us to our second action item, which is the superintendent's salary. I'm going to put a motion on the table. I'm making a motion to approve a 2% salary increase for the superintendent of schools for the period of July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, from $251,124.26 to $256,146.76. Do I have a second?
Karen, I want to just interrupt here for a second.
Wendy, you have to wait for it to be on the table, then you can.
Okay.
I'll second
So
it.
do I have a second?
I do.
Okay, so so Wendy, quickly before you say anything, I just wanted to note that this raise was already factored into the upcoming budget. And it is it is part of the superintendent's contract that she gets a 2% pay increase. And typically we do that when we every year during the superintendent's review and or when we change the contract, but we inadvertently omitted it this year. So with that said, Wendy, would you like to say? I know you
I
have your hand
do.
raised.
I would just like to say that, you know, the budget was put together a year ago. And it doesn't mean that it must happen. As far as I understand, it doesn't mean that we have to give her a 2% increase. She clearly did not do a good enough job to get a full renewal.
Okay, this is not, we're not discussing her review here. It is part of her contract that she gets a 2% raise. We can request something higher than that, but it has to just be, she gets the 2% raise. We as a board simply have to approve it. It's part of, it's written into her contract.
Well, that's not my understanding. And we didn't have any documentation to support that in our agenda today. So in the future, I'd really appreciate some documentation put into the agenda.
I will make note of that, but it is part of her contract, which you had received a copy of when we had her superintendent review and contract renewal.
Okay, carry on.
Yep. No, it's, and I am making note of your concern, and I will happily send the information over to you after. I don't know if anybody else has any questions. I don't see any hands raised, so with that in mind, is everybody ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, so I am a yes. Sophie?
I'm a yes.
Wendy?
I'm a no.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Cody?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries with a 5-0-1, or 5-1-0, sorry. Okay, sure. And now we're off to discussion items. The first one, which is the Board of Education vacancy. As many in the community may be aware, Ms. Karen Kowalski, our former chair, has submitted her resignation to the board and to the town as of July 19th, which was just shy of 2 weeks ago. And the board would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Karen Kowalski for her dedicated service over the past almost 5 years. As it stands now, there's a vacancy on the board, and I just felt it was important that the members of the board and the community understand the board's process for filling that vacancy. We have in our board bylaws, which is policy 9221 of filling vacancies, has clear guidance as to how the board will fill the current vacancy. And additionally, Connecticut State Statute 10-219 also notes how that vacancy should be filled by the board until the next municipal election. It also includes information as to how the successor shall be elected for the remaining portion of the unexpired term. So for the periods between now and the next municipal election, the remaining 7 members of the Board of Education shall fill that vacancy with a qualified candidate of the same political party as the vacated member. The board is permitted to interview candidates and will take a public vote to fill the seat until the next municipal election. And according to state statute 10-219, which then notes that a successor shall be elected for the remainder of the unexpired portion of the term at the next regular municipal town election, with the official ballot specifying the vacancy to be filled. Any registered Republican who is interested in filling this vacant seat should send an email detailing why they're interested in serving on the board and should include any information on personal or professional expertise to me as acting chair, Karen Hirsch. That information will then be shared with all board members, and the board will have a discussion, hopefully interview candidates, and take a vote on the candidates as soon as possible. And I hope to be able to do this at the September meeting. We certainly hope that there will be many people interested in serving in this exceptionally important role, and we look forward to meeting potential candidates. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments. Otherwise, I just simply wanted to ensure that members of the board and the public were aware of our policy. I see no hands raised, so I see no hands raised, so I'm happy to continue on to the next agenda item, which is, I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through here, is the superintendent update. I will turn the discussion over to Dr. Jones.
Thank you. I'll be quick. When I had my planning meeting with our acting chair, Karen Hirsch, there were a couple of items that some board members are hearing about over the summer. So she just wanted me to be sure just to update on where we are. For the GHS fields, we are still under construction, which was anticipated to be so, and that will go all the way through the fall. We are still on schedule to be able to access the baseball field next spring for season. However, I just always like to remind people weather, a ton of things can happen between now and baseball season. And should that happen, we would be ready to have another wonderful season on an alternate field, just like we did last year. But I want to say we are on time and things are progressing the way they're supposed to. On the Western Middle School field, I know that we had a great article in the paper just about the fields in general and how well they're progressing. The completely level, the next step will be the turf. So we will absolutely have children back on Western Middle School fields next year, which is very exciting. And so we'll continue to watch that between now and when school starts. I know the board is aware, but just the, that PCG, the public consulting group who did our action plan study and did the study of special education will be back on site again this year from August through December to come back out to do a follow-up assessment on how the action plan has gone, everything that they wanted us to and thought that we needed to work on to be able to give the board a good idea of what has transpired. And that's all in the works, and we're getting that scheduled together. And Dr. Jennifer Millen, who led on the initial work, will be leading on the follow-up work as well. So we have the same person, and they'll be out on site. We also, in just the last few weeks, did complete the architect review for the Riverside feasibility. So we now have an architect on board for their feasibility committee. And the next step over the next week or two is getting that committee formulated, which includes members of PTA, teachers, the principal. There will be a board member that will want to serve on that feasibility. So Karen, I know you'll probably either ask them or we can just say right now if there's somebody that has a real interest in serving. Feasibility is a little shorter than a regular building committee in that it has an end of life. It usually goes for a couple of months to get the feasibility together. And then the last two, I really have three big ones left. We're getting a lot of questions just about the North Street Bridge. There is a group that is starting to formulate from the community, very concerned about the project is set to start next spring. And it is set to go for 18 months, which people feel like is a really long bridge project that they would like to see that much more condensed timeline, perhaps a different design if that's what it takes. But because of the impacts, people believe going down to, I believe it's one lane on North Street, which if you think about it now during heavy traffic times, we already have to hire police for the first couple of weeks of school just to be able to manage the traffic. So it will be hugely impactful. We're also looking at traffic starting the year. That was a request that the board during discussion had for GHS about flex time and how we can mitigate some of that traffic at release time this year. So we're working with safety and security on that. And last but not least, I know the board is aware about the Havemeyer Committee, that our first selectman started over a year ago. And originally, members, Christina Downey and Joe Kelly served on behalf of the board. Joe Kelly is still on that committee. However, we did not have a board representative on that committee, for quite some time. And so we did reach out, ask if we could please get board representation so that we're more informed about what's happening. We did that, I believe, last week. And Karen Hirsch and Sophie Coven are going to be representatives on that committee. The bad thing was we, got invited to add the members on a Monday. I let them know who they were on a Tuesday, and the RFP went out on a Wednesday. So we didn't actually have any board members that were able to review the RFP. But we'll continue to work through that process. And kind of that's where we are on Havemeyer. And I know some of you may have questions about one or any of these because they're all big projects happening this summer. So that's it for the superintendent's updates.
I just have a quick question on, sorry, can I raise my hand, but.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on my phone. It's hard to
No, it's
adjust
fine.
back and forth. I was about to call you.
So I just wanted to quickly on Havemeyer, since this is sort of seeing like, it always was like out there, but to not be a part of the process was a little bit frustrating. But now that it's out there, frankly, I haven't had, I guess it's publicly posted somewhere. So is there, I mean, if you could maybe send that around, I guess, so that we could see it. But also I assume that the board will need its own counsel now because it's, certainly we're in a different position, have probably will be in a conflict of interest with the town's council. So can we start that process, or do we need to start that process?
We were given approval
sorry.
for outside counsel. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'll let Dr. Jones
No,
speak.
Karen, you're right. We have been given approval. Sorry.
Mhm.
Okay, fine. Then we should proceed, right? Okay, great.
Yes. I see Ms. Costin's hand up.
Yes, I am a little bit troubled that the board had no representation nor any participation in the crafting of the RFP. And I certainly would not have worded it in the way that it was worded. And these meetings were not publicly posted, nor were they available to watch to the public. I feel like there is a lack of transparency, and it is somewhat troubling to me, but I am glad we are able to retain counsel. So as soon as we are able, I would like to move that process forward with if it needs board approval, then I would like to, motion for that at our next meeting.
I will be reaching out to the chair. This, is a separate actually committee than the Havemeyer committee that was formed prior. So this is a different committee. And yeah, we were not aware that they were meeting over the summer. Nobody reached out, at least to us as the executive board, and there weren't meetings posted anywhere. So I'll be reaching out as I believe once the RFP is issued, that we still have an opportunity to possibly amend. So I'll be looking into that as well. Sophie, I saw your hand up. Sophie, did you have your hand up and want to speak?
I think that everybody covered what I was going to say. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any other hands up. Are there any other questions before we move on to the next item?
Karen, I have to drop. Is that going to affect our quorum?
No, it shouldn't. We have one item left, which should be very quick. If there's no other questions, I know Dr. Jones was just going to give us a very quick policy update.
Are you ready to move on? Okay. So for the policy update, it's just making sure that the board is informed. Obviously, the policy committee, we've had a lot of people traveling. We haven't met this summer. Title IX did have a go through a federal update last year, so we will have some update that will need to happen in the policy, but I just want to assure the board, because there's a lot of press information from CABE, from other sources about the changes. Most of the changes actually make it a little better from the investigation aspect for our administrators, but we will have the regulation updated before even the policies updated, because we need to be ready to go for the first, week of school. So I just wanted the board to realize that we are on top of all of that. The other thing is that just making the board aware from two different issues. One is really with the bring your own device. We do have a board policy. We'll ask the board to look at that, perhaps for a few tweaks. Our middle school principals, and I know Tom Healy's still online if anyone has a question, have specifically requested that at middle school going into this year, that students only use school issued devices and no outside devices. And that really has to do with the amount of disruptions and distractions that they're having, because they don't have the same level of control to turn things off, like Facebook and Messenger and things that don't happen on the school issued devices. So, I mean, we don't have to have a big discussion, but if you do have questions for Tom, since he is on the call, we welcome those. But that's the intent going into the fall, is trying to make sure they're on school issued devices in middle school. And we already do that really in K-5. Now, of course, if we have a student who has a unique need, like a 504 or an IEP, something why they would need a different device, of course, that would be taken into consideration and be allowed for a student that may need that. And then the last thing I'll say, and I've emailed the board this, I think you're aware, there's a petition that was circulating about, banning cell phones. And I just want to really clarify, and for the board as well as the community, we've really had a no cell bell to bell in K-8. Probably what we haven't done as well is communicate that we even do that, but their phones are supposed to be off and away. They're not supposed to even have them out at lunch. And we came together as an administrative team just to talk about consistency of implementation, making sure that we are following what we say that we do. And I think that that's going to be a big help going into the fall, because I think a lot of people don't realize that we were really a little bit ahead. But it doesn't mean they can't have them in their backpack, or if they use a locker, still have them in their locker. And part of that is if you have a student who has a large walking zone after school, a lot of our parents want them to have, from a safety standpoint, to be able to get hold of their parents. 9 through 12, totally different animal. Ralph joined us, the middle school principals, this week for a big conversation about this. At high school, again, they're often away during instruction unless they have permission. Sometimes they use them, a lab experiment, because they're using the video camera, or they may be using a decibel meter on somebody's cell phone or something like that. And again, consistency of implementation is really where our effort will be. And the policy committee, I know, is going to take this up. It's already on their list, and I'll be able to share with them what we currently do. And then I'm sure it'll come back in front of the board for discussion. But I just want the board to know that we acknowledge, and we're going to do a better job of communicating what we already do. And hopefully that'll be very well received from the community. And that's it for me.
Yes, I was going to say, I know our policy chair is out of town, but we will be addressing some of these items at our next policy meeting. I don't know if anybody else has any questions. As I don't see any hands raised, I'm happy to make a motion. Well, first of all, I really just I want to thank all of our board members for being here, because I was to say the majority. I want to thank all of our board members for attending this evening, who could, as a majority of us are away at this week. So thank you everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule so we can move Central Middle School forward. And with that, does anybody have a motion that they'd like to make? I'll be happy to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second
I'll
that.
second.
Okay, I'm happy to vote yes. Kathleen?
Yes.
This
Sophie-
is Sophie,
Sophie?
yes. Yes.
I know Laura's not here. Cody
Cody's a hard yes.
and Wendy.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that's everybody. So hopefully everybody can get back to enjoying their family time and time with their, vacation. So thank you all for being here, and
Night.
we will see you guys soon.
Good night.